The memorial service for my grandfather had just ended, and the small chapel in Portland was emptying out as family members filed past the pews. The faint scent of lilies, his favorite flower, lingered in the air. Suddenly, Abigail's voice cut through the murmurs, sharp and accusing. "You can't honestly believe you deserve any piece of Grandpa's estate, Lily," she sneered. "You're not even his real granddaughter." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "That's not fair, Abigail," I replied, my voice low but firm. "Grandpa Elias never treated me that way. I was his granddaughter, adoption or not. To him, family was family." Abigail smoothed her sleek black dress with perfectly manicured hands, her eyes narrowing. "Family legacy belongs to those who share his blood," she said coolly, "and you don't have a single drop." My chest tightened, not from grief, but from the weight of her words. "He was my grandfather for 25 years, I said. "That means something." "Not legally," she snapped, her tone dropping to a venomous whisper. "I'm his only biological grandchild. Everything should be mine. If you push this, you'll just humiliate yourself. My name is Lily Carter, 27 years old, adopted as a toddler by my parents, Nathan and Margaret. Grandpa Elias was the one person who never made me feel like an outsider because of it. He'd take me fishing on misty summer mornings, teach me chess by the fireplace, and share tales of our family's past as if it belonged to me just as much as anyone else. All I wanted now was to honor his memory, to see his belongings distributed the way he'd have wished. Standing in my way was Abigail, my cousin, who'd always viewed my place in the family as temporary, or worse, fake. "This isn't about money," I said, though the inheritance was significant. Grandpa Elias had built a successful career as an architect, leaving behind properties and investments worth millions. "It's about respecting what he wanted." Abigail waved a dismissive hand. "His wishes would have kept the legacy with real family." "Accept it, Lily. You're the pity case Grandma took in because Aunt Margaret couldn't have kids." Her words stung like a slap, but before I could fire back, Uncle Thomas, Abigail's father, approached with the family lawyer, Mr. Grayson. "I've set up a preliminary meeting about Elias's estate for next week," Mr. Grayson said, his tone professional but kind. "I know it's a tough time, but we should handle this soon." Abigail smirked at me. "Perfect. We'll wrap this up fast." As they turned to leave, something slipped from Mr. Grayson's portfolio, a sealed envelope with my name in Grandpa Elias's unmistakable handwriting. I snatched it up before anyone noticed, catching a glimpse of the note in the corner. "To be opened only in the event of family dispute." It hit me then. Grandpa had foreseen this clash. Abigail's smugness might not hold as steady as she thought. My adoption was never hidden. Nathan and Margaret told me from the start how they'd fallen in love with me the moment they saw me, a 2-year-old with no memory of life before them. I grew up knowing I was chosen, not born, to this family. Grandpa Elias welcomed me fully from day one. "Family isn't about blood," he'd say. "It's about who you love." His wife, Grandma Clara, shared that warmth until she passed 5 years ago. Their acceptance shaped me, easing the occasional unease of being the only adopted member in a mostly biological family. Abigail and I were born just 3 months apart, but we were opposites. I was quiet and bookish, drawn to preserving stories as a librarian. She was bold and outgoing, a real estate agent obsessed with tangible worth. Our childhood had its share of cousin squabbles, but her hostility always ran deeper. "You're so lucky," she'd said once as teens. "You get to be part of the family without the pressure. No one expects you to learn the business or sit through those dull historical society meetings." She didn't see how I craved that connection, volunteering to sort Grandpa's architectural files or tag along to those events. Grandpa understood. He'd carve out time for me, sharing family lore. "You're a Carter now," he'd say. "This history is yours too." For my 18th birthday, he gave me a leather journal packed with family photos and his sketches of meaningful places. Abigail got a silver locket with Grandma Clara's picture, which she'd flaunt at gatherings. My journal stayed by my bedside for years. Things worsened when Grandpa's health faded. Abigail's visits were rare, marked by pricey gifts but little time. I'd go weekly, reading to him or sitting quietly as he napped. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me, his eyes holding a mix of worry and resolve. Once, while helping with his desk, I found old adoption papers. Not mine, but ancient ones. He brushed them off when I asked. Another time, he said, I didn't push. Now I wish I had. The day of the estate meeting arrived, rain drumming against the Portland streets. I got to Mr. Grayson's office early, only to find Abigail and Uncle Thomas already there, whispering with the lawyer. They stopped when I walked in, their looks making my stomach twist. Lily, glad you're here, Mr. Grayson said, nodding to a chair. We were just going over some details. I'm sure you were, I replied, setting the sealed envelope on the table. I hadn't opened it, honoring Grandpa's instructions. Abigail's gaze flicked to it. What's that? Something Grandpa left me, I said simply. Mr. Grayson cleared his throat. Let's start with the estate's outline. He listed the assets. The grand family home in Portland's West Hills, a beach house on the Oregon coast, investment accounts, and rare architectural sketches worth over $500,000. It was more than I'd realized. Now distribution, he went on. Elias's will splits the estate equally between his two grandchildren. What? Abigail's calm shattered. That's impossible. Mr. Grayson adjusted his glasses. It's clear. But she's adopted, Uncle Thomas cut in, jabbing a finger at me. She's not blood. The will names Lily Carter as a beneficiary, the lawyer said firmly. Abigail's face reddened. This is ridiculous. Grandpa wouldn't give family treasures to someone who isn't family. I am family, I said softly. Not in any real way, she hissed. She turned to Mr. Grayson. I'll contest this. She must have twisted his mind when he was sick. It's the only answer. That's a bold claim, Mr. Grayson said, his voice sharpening. It's the truth, Abigail insisted. She was always there when he was weak, reading, fussing with his papers. Who knows what she did? I recoiled. I was being a granddaughter, something you couldn't manage. You're not his granddaughter, she shouted. You're some stray my aunt and uncle took in because they couldn't have kids. You've got no claim to the Carter name. The room went quiet. Even Uncle Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Abigail, I started, my voice trembling. Grandpa Elias never saw me as less. Then he was too soft or senile, she said icily. I want an investigation into this will. I'm the only true Carter grandchild, and I won't let you steal what's mine. I sat there, reeling from her venom. This wasn't just our usual friction, it was war. Mr. Grayson spoke up. Given this dispute, we'll pause here. I'll need to review some things. He glanced at my envelope, and we may need more documents. As we left, Abigail brushed past me, then paused. This isn't over, she whispered. You might have tricked Grandpa, but not me. You'll always be an outsider. Her words haunted me as I gripped the envelope. That night, alone in my apartment, I stared at it. To be opened only in the event of family dispute, it read. If Abigail's attack wasn't a dispute, nothing was. I broke the seal. Inside was a short letter and a small key. My dear Lily, it began. If you're reading this, my fears came true. Abigail's challenging your place in our family and estate. This key unlocks the bottom drawer of my study desk. You'll find papers and another letter there to explain everything. Family is love, not blood. You've always been my granddaughter. Nothing changes that. Love, Grandpa Elias. Tears welled up, but resolve hardened within me. The next day I drove to the family home. It felt hollow without Grandpa. In his study, surrounded by books and drawings, I used the key to open the locked drawer. Inside was a thick folder labeled with my name and another sealed envelope. Before I could open it, the front door creaked. Hello? Anyone here? Abigail's voice. I shoved the folder into my bag and closed the drawer. I had every right to be there, but I didn't want to fight. Too late? She appeared in the doorway, eyes narrowing. What are you doing? Getting things Grandpa left me, I said, aiming for calm. Nothing here's yours yet, she said, stepping closer. The will's under contest. You shouldn't be taking anything. I'm not stealing. These were specific gifts. Her face darkened. You won't drop this, will you? I spoke to my lawyer. He says adopted grandkids don't always have the same rights as biological ones. That's not true, I countered, unsure of the law but standing firm. Doesn't matter, she said, circling the desk. Even if you win legally, do you want to drag the family through court? Think of Aunt Margaret and Uncle Nathan. How will they feel watching you bicker over Grandpa's money? The guilt trip was obvious but hit hard. My parents hated conflict. This isn't about money, I said. It's about Grandpa's wishes and my place here. Abigail laughed coldly. Your place was charity. Don't make it weird for everyone by acting like it's more. I clutched my bag, feeling the folder inside. We're done, I said, heading out. Wait, she called, her tone shifting. Maybe I've been harsh. We're both grieving. What if we compromise? I paused, wary. What kind? You don't fight the will, and I'll ensure you get keepsakes, the chess set he taught you with, his architecture books, sentimental stuff. It was a patronizing offer, crumbs while she took the rest. I'll think about it, I said, hiding my next move. She smiled, thinking she'd won. Take your time. Let's keep this with the lawyers anyway. Fine, I agreed. I won't reach out until it's settled. She smirked. As if I'd need you to. Just me being nice. I left, anger and determination surging. Back home, I opened the folder. What I found stunned me. Grandpa Elias had planned for this fight more than I'd imagined. The papers went back 60 years. Birth certificates, death records, adoption files I didn't recognize at first. Then I opened the second envelope. A long letter, dated 6 months before his death, awaited. My dearest Lily, it read. This is a secret I've kept most of my life. I planned to tell you someday, but maybe I waited too long. I wasn't born a Carter. I was Elias Reed, orphaned at 7 during the Depression, adopted at 9 by Henry and Edith Carter. They gave me their name, love, and later their firm. They raised me as their son, never letting me feel less. These papers prove it. Family is built on love, not biology. That's why you and I were so close, Lily. We were chosen. Here's the bigger shock. Thomas isn't my biological son. Clara and I couldn't have kids, so we adopted him as a baby. We raised him as ours, like I was raised. He's known since his 20s, though we rarely spoke of it. After Abigail was born, he grew uneasy about it, wanting a real bloodline for the family that took him in. The irony? None of us, me, Thomas, Abigail, are Carters by blood. Abigail's claim to being the only true Carter grandchild is a myth. We're Carters by choice and love, the truest family I know. I never told Thomas I was adopted. Maybe I should have. I'm telling you now because I feared your place might be questioned after I'm gone. Use these papers if you need to, though I hope you won't. My will splits my estate between you and Abigail because you're both my grandchildren in every way that counts. I love you, and you'll always be my granddaughter. Love, Grandpa Elias. I leaned back, floored. Grandpa was adopted. Uncle Thomas, too. Abigail had no more biological claim to the Carter name than I did. Her whole argument was dust. The folder held a family tree he'd drawn, marking adoptions across generations, plus photos. Young Elias with his adoptive parents, baby Thomas in Grandma Clara's arms, me with Grandpa, his notes about our bond on the back. A legal affidavit, notarized weeks before his death, declared me his legitimate granddaughter and heir, citing our shared adoption. His doctor's note confirmed his clarity. My phone buzzed. Mr. Grayson, Abigail's lawyer filed to contest the will. We need to meet soon. I gathered the papers. For years, I'd felt like an outsider. Now I saw Grandpa had too, yet he'd become the Carter family's core. My adoption wasn't a flaw. It tied me to him most of all. Next morning, I laid the documents before Mr. Grayson. His jaw dropped. This is incredible, he said, sifting through. I didn't know Elias was adopted. A family secret, I said. Even Uncle Thomas doesn't know. This shifts everything, he replied. Abigail's case hinges on biology. These papers shred that. Do we show them now? I asked. He considered. We could, but she might pivot to another attack. She's stubborn. Let's wait until court. Hit them with this when they're locked into their argument? I nodded, though it meant months of tension. There's Uncle Thomas, too, I added. Learning this in court could hurt him. Maybe we tell him first, Mr. Grayson suggested. I agreed. The next day I met Uncle Thomas at a quiet cafe. He looked worn, guarded. I can't talk estate stuff, Lily, he said. Lawyers handle that. It's not about money, I assured, sliding him an envelope with a soft intro to the truth, some papers, and a letter from Grandpa to him. What's this? He asked, wary. Just read it. It's important. He scanned the pages, paling. This can't be. Dad was adopted? Yes, I said gently. Like you. Like me. He stared. How'd you know I was… Grandpa's papers, I explained. None of us are Carters by blood. We're Carters by love. He slumped back, shaken. He never told me. I think he feared it'd change how you saw the family, I said. Especially since you've been uneasy about your adoption. He didn't argue. I wanted Abigail to have what I didn't. A solid place here. Grandpa thought family was more than blood, I said. That's why he split the estate. Thomas sighed. Abigail won't buy this. She's sure she's the only real heir. Then she needs the truth, I pressed. He shook his head. Not from me. I can't tell her. He left, conflicted. I felt for him, but his hesitation left me to face Abigail alone. That night, her lawyer pushed for an emergency hearing to block asset distribution, claiming her as the sole biological heir. Mr. Grayson called. Hearings next week. Show the papers now or wait? I thought of Thomas's pain, Abigail's entitlement, Grandpa's hope for us both. Wait, I said. Let them build their case. We'll be ready. Thomas might sit this out. It's Grandpa's words against Abigail's claims. Hanging up, I saw what Grandpa had done. These weren't just papers for my inheritance. They were the Carter legacy, family by choice, not blood. The court would decide more than money. It'd settle whose vision of family won. 5 months later, we faced off in a Portland courthouse. The wood-paneled room felt stiff for a family feud, but Abigail had forced this. She sat with her lawyers, polished and confident. Uncle Thomas lingered behind her, uneasy. My parents, finally here after staying neutral, sat with me. Abigail's lawyer went first, touting her as the only true Carter, hinting Grandpa was coerced into his will. He showed a family tree, her bloodline bold, my adoption a break. Elias Carter meant to keep assets in the family, he argued. Lily, adopted, doesn't carry that legacy like Abigail. Then Mr. Grayson stood. Your Honor, I have documents addressing these claims. He handed out Grandpa's papers. Whispers filled the room as Abigail's smugness faded to shock, then pallor. These prove Elias Carter was adopted, Mr. Grayson said. So was Thomas Carter, Abigail's father. No one here has a biological Carter bloodline? The judge eyed Abigail's lawyer. Care to rethink your blood argument? He faltered. Abigail sat still, papers shaking in her hands. I met her gaze. No snark, no retort. Her claim collapsed. The true Carter legacy was love, just as Grandpa believed. Case dismissed, the judge ruled. The will stands, equal shares. Outside, spring sun broke through the rain. Abigail stood alone, clutching the papers. Why didn't you tell me, she rasped as I approached. You wouldn't have listened, I said. You told me to stay away until it was done. She looked off. Dad said I was special, carrying Grandpa's line. What a lie. There's a legacy, I said, just not blood. Grandpa accepted me because he was adopted. That's the real Carter way. Uncle Thomas joined us. I'm sorry, Abigail. I should have told you about my adoption. I wanted you secure. By hiding the truth? She shot back. By showing you were loved, he said. She went quiet, the reality settling. We honored Grandpa's will. Abigail took the beach house she adored. I kept the Portland home. The sketches went to the university where he taught, preserving his work. Abigail and I aren't close. Too much history for that. But at a gathering for his keepsakes, she handed me the chess set. He taught you on this, she said. It's yours. Not an apology, but a gesture. A nod that we're both Carters, not by blood, but by Grandpa's boundless love. Driving home with the set, I smiled. He'd given me more than half his estate. He'd given me his truth. Family is who you choose. That legacy, richer than any fortune, I'd carry forever.